What if one day you woke up, looked out the window, and realized that your whole life you had believed in a lie? That the Earth isn't actually a sphere spinning in space, but a massive flat disk hanging in some unknown place? That single shift in perspective would shake not only science, but every tiny detail of our daily lives, from airplane travel to the way we feel the wind on our faces. Imagine boarding a plane knowing it wouldn't be flying around a globe, but gliding over a giant flat surface. Sounds simpler, right? But in practice, it would be total chaos. On a flat Earth, flight routes would be completely different. No calculations of curvature, no concept of circumnavigation. A trip from New York to Tokyo might not cut across the Arctic anymore, but it could turn absurdly long, or even impossible. And what about ships? In our real world, the Earth's curve makes vessels slowly disappear on the horizon, first the hull, then the mast. On a flat planet, that would never happen. A captain could see the same ship for hours, maybe days. Navigation by sight would look easier, but in truth, it would be dangerously misleading. After all, if there's no curve hiding the oceans, how would you even know where you're headed? Now think about the idea of a world's edge. On a flat Earth, it would be natural to imagine a border, a colossal abyss where oceans might tumble into nothingness. Tourists and thrill seekers would pay fortunes to visit it. Airlines and cruise companies would turn the danger into an attraction, but accidents would be inevitable. Picture the headline: luxury ship plunges off Earth's edge with 2,000 passengers. And without the planet's curvature, navigation systems as we know them would collapse. GPS, which depends on satellites orbiting Earth, simply wouldn't exist. Pilots and sailors would have to go back to compasses and starlight, just like centuries ago, but with far greater risks, since everything would need to be reimagined for a two-dimensional map. And here lies the first big dilemma. If we couldn't safely sail or fly across a flat planet, how would we stay connected as a world? That question leads us straight into our next point: the technology that sustains modern life. In the real world, satellites orbit Earth thanks to gravity and the planet's spherical shape. They circle constantly, which allows them to transmit internet, television, GPS, and even weather data. But on a flat Earth, there would be no orbit at all. Without curvature, gravity wouldn't work the same way, and satellites simply couldn't float above us. That means no global internet. Imagine living in a world where video calls, social media, and even something as simple as checking Google Maps just didn't exist. We'd be thrown back into a reality closer to the 1950s, where communication relied on cables and local antennas. The planet would be broken up into small, isolated regions, each with its own limited connections. And it's not just the internet. Satellite TV, which beams channels from across the world into millions of homes, would vanish too. Weather forecasting, the kind that tells us when storms or hurricanes are coming, wouldn't exist in its modern form. Without satellites tracking clouds, storms, and atmospheric changes, communities would have to depend on local observation, like ancient farmers once did. Imagine waking up without a clue that a massive hurricane was about to strike your city. Of course, humans are inventive. Maybe we'd build massive towers to broadcast radio and TV signals over thousands of miles. Or maybe we'd launch giant balloons into the sky to act like fake satellites. But none of these alternatives would ever match the reach and reliability we enjoy today. We'd inevitably be less connected, more isolated, living in tiny technological bubbles. And that sparks a bigger question. Without this global web of satellites and signals, would human civilization have advanced as far as it has? Without the internet, GPS, or modern forecasting, our progress would crawl at a slower, almost medieval pace. And if technology itself is reshaped, imagine what happens to something as fragile as the climate. The climate we know today depends entirely on Earth's spherical shape. That's what creates the seasons, time zones, and the way winds circulate around the globe. But on a flat Earth, none of that would work the same way. The sun might hover over specific regions, leaving some places trapped in eternal heat while others would remain in endless darkness. Picture entire cities condemned to never see the sunrise. Winds would also behave in strange and unpredictable ways. On a round planet, they flow thanks to rotation and curvature. On a flat one, they'd move in straight, chaotic patterns, forming storms that could rage for centuries in the same area. Hurricanes and tornadoes wouldn't look anything like they do now. They might turn into colossal walls of wind sweeping across entire continents. And what about the water cycle? In our world, it's driven by the uneven heating of oceans and atmospheric circulation. On a flat Earth, vast regions might become eternal deserts, while others would drown under non-stop rain. Agriculture, the foundation of human survival, would become nearly impossible to sustain on a global scale. Food shortages would be constant, and civilizations might never grow beyond small, scattered groups. The seasons, too, would disappear. No spring blossoms in Paris, no harsh winters in Moscow. Cultures shaped by changing seasons, their music, traditions, and even their sense of time, would never exist. Humanity's history, our stories and art, would have unfolded in a completely different way. And if climate is what shapes civilizations, then a flat Earth would give birth to societies vastly different from the ones we know. But the strangeness doesn't stop there, because even the way we see the world around us, the horizon itself, would feel completely alien. Today, when we look out at the ocean, we know the horizon is a gentle curve hiding what lies beyond. That's why ships slowly sink from view, first the hull, then the mast. But on a flat Earth, the horizon would be a straight, endless line, never hiding anything. You could watch a ship for hours, maybe days, until it disappeared only because it was too far for the human eye to see. That would completely change our sense of space. Imagine standing in New York with a powerful telescope and being able to spot mountains in California. Or looking out from Brazil and seeing the Andes on the horizon. It would feel like living inside a giant model, where everything seems close, yet somehow out of reach. Architecture would be affected too. Skyscrapers in cities like Dubai or Shanghai could be seen from thousands of miles away. The very idea of a panoramic view would lose its magic, because nothing would ever be hidden. The whole world would always be in plain sight, stripping away much of the mystery that drives exploration. But there's also a psychological side to this. Part of the beauty of life comes from the unknown, from what lies beyond the curve we can't see. If everything were always visible, maybe humanity would lose some of its curiosity. After all, if you could see the edge of the world from your window, why bother exploring? And that thought leads us to something even stranger. If the horizon itself would feel alien, imagine what would happen to the very force that keeps us grounded, gravity. Gravity, as we know it, depends on a spherical mass pulling everything toward its center. But on a flat Earth, that idea would twist into something bizarre. The middle of the surface might feel normal, but the closer you got to the edges, the pull would tilt at strange angles. Walking near the end of the world would feel like climbing an invisible slope. And what about the oceans? Water, obeying this warped gravity, might simply spill over the sides. To prevent that, we'd have to imagine colossal barriers holding back entire seas, maybe giant ice walls, like some flat Earth theories suggest. But think about the danger. One earthquake, one rupture, and billions of gallons could pour into the void. Everyday activities would feel surreal. Cooking, for example, an egg might slide across a frying pan instead of staying in place. Buildings would need to be engineered with wild, tilted designs just to stay upright. And sports? Forget about soccer or basketball working the way we know them. On the edges, a ball would never travel in a straight line. Scientifically, it would shatter everything. Newton, Einstein, the laws of physics themselves would need to be rewritten. Human understanding of the universe would collapse, leaving us in a world where even taking a walk could be unpredictable. A simple stroll might feel like defying nature. And if just walking or building became strange and difficult, imagine how societies would organize themselves. That takes us straight into another mind-bending consequence: geopolitics and the economy on a flat Earth. If Earth were flat, the maps we know would be useless. Borders would have to be redrawn, and entire countries might end up closer, or farther apart, than we've ever imagined. That alone would spark intense geopolitical disputes. Who would control the edge of the world? Would it become a militarized zone? Or maybe a luxury tourist destination for billionaires chasing the ultimate thrill? International trade would suffer as well. Without reliable sea routes or efficient air travel, moving goods across long distances would be painfully slow, maybe even impossible. Exotic products, like spices, tropical fruits, or advanced technology, would turn into rare luxuries. Globalization, as we know it, might never exist. Each region could be forced to live inside its own closed-off economy. But then comes the question of exploration. Just as space is seen today as humanity's final frontier, on a flat Earth the edge itself would become the new El Dorado. Nations would compete fiercely to exploit whatever resources might exist there, whether it's ice, minerals, or some mysterious form of energy. Private companies could sell tickets to daring tourists, even if many never returned. Tourism itself would be completely redefined. Instead of dreaming of Paris, New York, or Tokyo, people would line up for expeditions to the world's edge. Social media would be full of risky selfies taken at the brink of the abyss, or viral videos of objects tossed into the void, just to see how far they'd fall. And that leads to the bigger picture. If politics and economics already seem unstable in our real world, imagine how chaotic they'd be in a flat one. Which leaves us with the ultimate question: how would humanity truly cope with a reality so radically different from the one we know? So let me ask you this: have you ever imagined what your life would be like if Earth were truly flat? No internet, no quick flights across the globe, no horizon hiding mysteries, everything visible, yet everything limited. Would we still feel the same curiosity to explore? Or would we be trapped in a reality that feels small, flattened, maybe even too predictable? Tell me in the comments, could you live on a planet like that? And of course, if you enjoy exploring wild and thought-provoking ideas like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and get ready, because in the coming weeks, we're diving into even more mind-blowing mysteries of the universe.